A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Professor Rekha Mahajan, and I'm the principal of a teacher educator college that is located in Uttar Pradesh state of India. The title of my study is Attitude and Perception Towards Mathematics. It's a study of the school students. Sorry, the slides are not moving. Okay. The definition of mathematics says that it is a science of numbers, it is precise, it is systematic, it is logical, and it reveals a pattern for us to understand about the world around us. The objective of my study was to investigate the students' attitudes and beliefs towards mathematics and to understand the perception towards mathematics and to further guide them. That was most important, to undertake mathematics in higher studies, in higher education. A part of the study also included to understand the difficulties faced by the school children in understanding mathematics. The instrument that I had used was the Mathematics Attitude and Perception Survey that was available online, and it was available in the International Journal of Mathematical Education in Science and Technology. This was the instrument that I had used. The material methods included a questionnaire. The questions that were there in the MAPS questionnaire, they were shared through the Google form online. I received a total of 137 responses, out of which 24 were rejected because they were incomplete, and 113 were taken into consideration, which were further analyzed. Apart from that, there was personal data also that was recorded that included the age, gender, class, type of schooling. Type of schooling in India, we have the public schools, or we call them the private schools, and the government schools. The parents, the mother's, father's qualification, I felt was important. And apart from that, that if awards, they had received any kind of awards in mathematics, this was apart from the 7 components of the MAPS test. The data was compiled and analyzed using central tendency, coefficient of correlation, etc. The MAPS categories, it had a total of 31 questions. And there was one question that was, there was a filter statement also. The 31 statements were divided up into 7 groups, which included the growth mindset. Those questions were all randomly arranged, and they indicated the growth mindset of a student. The component which was covered under this was that it was a belief whether the mathematical ability is static or developed. Real world, that means the applicability of mathematics into the everyday life. Confidence that they had towards mathematics, interest in studying the subject, that was very important. Persistence in problem solving was one of the components, because we do find some students, they just leave the question in between and they do not go ahead with it. Then sense making, which included learning mathematics for understanding, and answer is the nature of answers to the mathematical problems. This is how the questions were all arranged. These were the components that were covered in all the 31 questions, including one filter statement. The background of the 2 samples, that was that if we talk about gender-wise, the male and female students, the males were 47 in number, that was 42%, and females were 66, that is 58%. Out of these, we had 97.7% students studying in private, or we call them public schools, and the rest, a very small percentage, that was in the government schools. Because achieving awards, I felt, was important. So there were about 30 students who had received some kind of an award. It could have been a certificate, a token of appreciation. It could have been some prize money that they had received. That was all considered under receiving an award. Out of these 30 students who had received an award, there were 14 girls and the rest 16 boys. The status of parental education, I felt, was important. There were categories that I had made, that was intermediate and less. Intermediate, we call it class 12 over here. Graduates, postgraduates and above. Postgraduates and above is doctorates, and postdoctorates were also considered. So this was how the parental education was observed in the data that I had taken. If we talk about both parents, the mother and the father, graduation and above were 56, and intermediate and below were 14 parents who were there. Again, doctorate, postdoctorate, graduates, and intermediate. This is how the sample indicated that there were 4 students with a doctorate, 23 with postgraduate, 29 graduates, and 14 students who were intermediate or less than intermediate. This is about both the parents. If we consider the education of a single parent, any one of them, the father being a graduate or more, or the mother being a graduate and more, was 50 and 48. Coming to the results and discussion of the study, the status of the respondents in the MAPS parameter, in the Mathematics Attitude and Perception Survey. On the extreme left are all the components that we had spoken about earlier. And then we have the mean, above mean, below mean, and so on. A higher mathematics students were in the growth mindset, real world, confidence, and problem solving. Sense making and answers in the mathematics group were average. That is what was observed. More number of students above 0.80 were for interest and indicating a high motivational interest in mathematics and learning mathematics for understanding. That was very important.
Dr. Rekha, sorry to interrupt you. You have 2 minutes more left.
Okay, fine. I'll conclude quickly. This is the status about the mathematics parameters and the observations. Going ahead, when we talk about the average scores, this is the observation according to the gender and the awards that were received. So male gender was more important in growth mindset and sense making and answer, while female's response was more for the real world and interest. Getting an award was more important except for the growth mindset. The average score of parameters of MAPS for the parents' qualification, what was observed was that the father's qualification, graduation and above, was more important for all parameters except for interest. Mother's qualification was observed to be important for growth mindset, confidence, problem solving, sense making, and answer. And finally, the correlation between age, class, and the parameters, it was observed that there was a significant and positive correlation between component answers with the others except for the real world. And with all the similarly persistence in problem solving too had a significance except for the real world in sense making. The conclusion that was drawn from this study was that the male and female students responded differently. This was the observation. Students with an award in mathematics was important. Education of the parents was found to be important. Most of the students had an attitude for mathematics and persistence in problem solving. Interest was also important, and there was a very strong correlation between persistence, sense making, interest, and answers among the parameters of the mathematical attitude survey. So the final part, the final slide, it helps in identifying and guiding the students about their interest. Once we guide them at the school level, it becomes very important and they can benefit it better at the higher level. And there's an emphasis to understand the usefulness of mathematics in life, and it helps in understanding the difficulties faced by the students in understanding mathematics. Thank you very much.